flat stomachs. Like, I think curvy now, it used to be very trendy, but I don't think it's kind of coming out of trend.
Like medium height, so like 5'2" to like 5'6". Slim waist, big bum.
I'd say the same.
Slim waist,
Big bum.
big bum, yeah.
Boobs, no thigh gap, like thick,
But
like,
thick thighs, yeah.
Really thin, like to the point where it doesn't even look like healthy, like really, really slim. But then like this expectation that like your bum and your hips are supposed to be massive.
Obviously a bit slim, not too skinny, but a bit slim. Not being overweight in a sense. When I say overweight, I mean like, you know, you can actually control it. Like if you're actually in control of your weight. So there's some people that actually can't physically change, which is understandable.
Like a bit more skinny or something like that. But I think I am lately changing my mindset to focus more on health and a body that I feel comfortable with.
So I see it through the eyes of my daughter, who's 26, and she's very obsessed with being slim. Very thin is how she wants to be. She'll be constantly saying to me, have I put on weight? Am I slim enough? So for me, I'd say it was very slim.
I think the ideal body for like a woman in this day and age is probably like curvy, or it could be very slim, like model-like. So I would say those two.
Social media heavily influences kind of your perception of a female's body, and I don't think it lines up with it's not a true reflection of actually how most females' anatomy is or whatever. And it's like, yeah, a lot of people have a distorted view, or it's heavily influenced, whether it's social media or pornography as well.
Curvy, big bum, that's what, you know, the guys like nowadays.
Interestingly, I would describe the ideal body in today's society as something that's completely different for each group in society. In fashion, with high brands kind of utilising the very thin, kind of almost young girlish type body.
It's changing from very, very slim, almost too slim, and becoming slightly more towards athletic and toned at the minute, but I'd say it's still very against anybody of a larger size.
It's what you see all over Pinterest and Instagram. For me, what I think of the ideal body is like, would be slim or toned.
I think the term that people use is the Kim Kardashian body type, so which is like super curvy, like small waist, big bottom, and like big thighs. So it's like they're not fat, they're just like slim but thick in the right places.
Body image is a concept describing our perceptions and attitudes towards your own physical appearance, which are guided by our personal beliefs surrounding attractiveness. In this documentary, I explore how body image issues are affecting women in today's society, the psychological effects it has, the impact of social media and the part it plays, in addition to speaking with experts in different professions to get a better understanding on the topic in more depth. Before looking into today's society, let's take a quick lesson on the standards women in history had to meet. In ancient Greece, the ideal female body type was plump and fair-skinned. If a woman was bigger, they were seen as being wealthy because more money meant more access to food. However, women's bodies were considered disfigured due to the significant differences between the male body and female body. The 1930s to the 1950s was the Hollywood hourglass era. After the Great Depression, majority of people could not afford to care about their physical appearance. But after that period had passed, the ideal became big breasts, wide hips, and a slim waist, also known as the hourglass figure. The hype in the 80s was all about having a fit body and looking athletic. The standard in this time was the 3 T's: tall, thin and tanned, with a small waist and narrow hips. During this decade, there was an understandable spike in anorexia due to people's infatuation with exercising and workout videos. The 90s, also known as the heroin era, was all about having a frail and waifish appearance. A lot of women looked up to skinny and feeble-looking celebrities, most of them abusing drugs to help them maintain their thin frame and appearance. The 90s is famous for showcasing the thinnest female body. So now that we have an idea of the standards women in history had to meet, let's discuss the present. One of the largest contributors as to why so many women in today's society are under so much pressure for their body to look a certain way is social media. A lot of social media platforms often feature images and content of women with seemingly perfect faces and bodies. This has created unrealistic beauty and body standards, which eventually leads to body dissatisfaction and low self-esteem in a lot of women.
It's actually quite difficult because I've always been quite happy with my body, and then a few years ago I started going to the gym just because it was something to do, a bit of exercise, and I found ever since I've started going to the gym, my view on my body has gotten worse. Like, you're seeing people at the gym, then you're going on social media to see, oh, what can I do differently? And all the time you're just being fed these like videos of people who have obviously been doing this thing for a long time, and you're suddenly thinking, why don't I look like that? And I feel like there's always something I'm striving for, and I can never really get it, and I just kind of look at myself like, why can't I be like that? I think sometimes it's quite healthy. Like, I can go onto an influencer's account or something and see something I want to do, like a new exercise, but then I feel like it's something you get sucked into. So you see this exercise, you want to do it, but then you kind of start focusing on different things. So I'll start focusing on her body and being like, why don't I look like that? Like, obviously everyone's going to her for advice, she's a professional, but then it's frustrating because you can never be what you want to be. There's always something you're striving to do, and I think it just depends whether you view that in a good way, like, oh, I can't wait to be like that, or why don't I look like that?
The negative contrast theory is when something is viewed as being worse than it really is when compared with something seemingly better. Numerous women generate a contrast between themselves and the models and influencers they view.
My social media experience started when I was in about year 8. So then it was fun in the beginning because it was just memes, everyone having fun, and then it shifted into like what we know it as now, like influencer culture. Everyone looks perfect, and I was looking at myself like, I don't look like these people, I don't fit this mold, and it was just constant. Like, if you was having a bad day, or even if you felt really good about yourself, you would see something online and it'd be like, fucking hell, like, I don't look like that, and it's making me look at myself in a negative light. So I just had to get rid of all of it. If I saw it and it didn't bring me joy, or it made me feel bad about myself, gone. Because this is my social media. Like, you're not dictating how I feel.
Psychologists are now highlighting the fact that social media actually creates new pressure to engage in body work and sculpting the perfect body.
Even though now people are kind of more accepting on social media, I would say, it's like they're more open about it. There's still that, I don't know if I'm the only one who sees like that, but I think there's still that slim body type that everybody wants type of thing. So I think the role that social media played on my insecurity is kind of making young girls think that we have to be like those models, when in reality we're not, you know, because we all have different body shapes. So.
The Mental Health Foundation's latest body image report has found that the common influence on body image was young people being exposed to unrealistic body types. According to the BBC, young women reported that they tend to compare themselves negatively with their peers and celebrities on social media platforms.
Realising like feeling like there's no one that looked like me. There's actually a lot of people that look like me, but the thing is, media has meant, like social media in particular, has meant that we only see the same body types. Like, even when a girl is more full-figured, she still has like the hourglass figure, her stomach is completely flat, like, and I just don't look like that, and feeling like there's something wrong with me, like there's a lack of representation. Yeah, honestly, this week on my For You page on TikTok, I saw this girl, and we had like a really similar like body shape, and I was like, oh my gosh, like she was amazing. And it was like, why is it taking me so long? Because I've been on social media since I was like 11. Like, I'm 21. It's taken me 10 years to find someone who looks like me and has actually got like a decent reach. I think that's the thing as well. Like, our body type is just not pushed.
Priyanka Budon is a counselling psychologist currently working in private practice and as a lecturer at Birmingham City University.
I think comparison, it can really impact upon an individual's self-esteem as well, what I said earlier, because if you're comparing, you're not necessarily looking at what is valuable about yourself. You're constantly seeking more, seeking something different, and different doesn't mean better, but I think the grass is always greener sometimes for people, and it takes a lot to be able to look in the mirror and appreciate maybe one thing that you like about yourself when actually you're presented with, like I say, on Instagram. If I went on Instagram right now, I'd probably see loads of just these very standardized looks that might kind of, if I were somebody who wasn't necessarily feeling quite confident about myself, I could be susceptible to thinking I should look like that.
I guess when you see social media, you've got your influencers, celebrities, kind of everyone got their bodies out there everywhere, like on the beach, etc. Or especially just people in my school group, in my year group, wherever, when I'd see them post really nice things or doing things in these nice outfits, just then in the back of my mind, I'm like, why can't I be like that? Or is this the way that society expects us to be? If so, how do I even get there?
Awareness of body ideals starts from an early age, and this reflects in children's experience in the world surrounding them. When we are young, our thoughts, biases, beliefs, and opinions are heavily influenced by others.
This is like a memory that like has stayed with me, but it's not like I fixate on it, but it was the first time where I've been like, oh, my friend in school, like best friend, primary school days, she was talking about, oh, she wants to be a model, and she was talking about how like cool it will be, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, like that sounds fun, like I'll be a model too, and she'll just be like, yeah, you could be like a plus size model, and at the time I didn't know what that meant, and I was just like, yeah, but it cut me deep, and it made me start to look at myself like, oh, like I'm bigger than y'all.
I think it was when I was like in secondary, because you know when you're in primary, you're a kid, you don't really care. So when I was in secondary, I was like a chubby kid, like really chubby, and I think my mum Sonny pointed it out. She was like, oh, don't eat too much and stuff, and I never really thought much of it. And then I think I had a friend who said, oh, like that makes you look fat, or that colour makes you look bigger. So then that's kind of when I was like, oh, I actually am a bit like bigger than my friend kind of thing. Because when you're young, you don't really see it. Like when I was young, I didn't notice that I was chubby. I just didn't see it 'cause nobody said it, so I don't think you notice it. But when someone pointed it out, I started realizing, oh, I am a bit bigger. So then I'll be conscious and I'll wear like oversized jackets and proper long tops to like cover up the things that I'm insecure about and stuff like that. So.
I remember when I turned 10, like 2 weeks after I started my period, and actually I had boobs at 8, and I remember like the first time wearing a bra at school and having someone flick my straps, and I was super self-conscious, and I'd never felt anything like that. But I think in terms of like the first time me like realizing my weight was like my first period, because what I now know is that I get bloating, and someone saying like, you look really big today, and from there it all went downhill.
As children grow up, their friends and peers begin to play a larger role in reinforcing and influencing what an ideal body looks like. A lot of times, this is due to the pressure to feel accepted and included.
It was probably in secondary school at some time, and it was just a group of boys like being their usual playful self, and they called me something like a daddy long legs because my legs are quite long. I'm generally quite a skinny person, and ever since then I've just wanted to be bigger. And it's been 5 or 6 years and it's still something I think about.
A survey conducted by the Mental Health Foundation found that 40% of young people, 42% of them being girls, agreed that their friends caused them to worry about their body image.
I think when I was slightly more overweight, it would kind of be summertime, everyone would be wearing all these nice dresses and clothes. I'd be wearing the baggiest of clothes, so like I'd be like, I'm covering those lumps and grumps. That's the way my mind would work. I couldn't wear anything nice. It would always be like black clothes, black big hoodies, even joggers in hot weather, because I'm like, I ain't wearing those shorts. I don't want like to look big in front of other people. Like, I know people are thinking these things like, oh, I look at her, and then all my friends looking great. That would probably be the first time. Or like when it would be school and you'd get to wear your own clothes day. Oh my God, it would be the most awful wardrobe I'd ever wear because I wouldn't fit into all the nice clothes. Again, baggy jumpers, things to cover up that so people can't really look at my body and I'm just kind of like a bag, really.
I'm a big believer that it's the experiences that you have that shape sort of as an adult what you're going to be thinking, what you're going to be feeling, and there's a lot to be said about especially those early life experiences that will shape that. So parenting styles, what you're exposed to at school, critical incidents, traumas. There's all sorts that can happen that as an adult may impact how you see yourself.
So when I was like, I think I was 14, 15, something like that, we used to, in school, we were playing volleyball and I was wearing shorts. And I remember that my classmates, 2 girls, they were saying to each other like, oh, look how much cellulite she has. So that's what I first remember. And then I wouldn't like notice it before, like I wouldn't care about it. But since they pointed it out, I became like aware of it. And I remember going back home and looking at myself in the mirror and being like terrified that what it looks like. It definitely stayed on my mind because then the summer, because it was like before summer, it was like May, so it was hot. That summer I avoided going out during the day because it would be too hot and I was insecure to wear like shorts or dresses. So if I had to go out, I would wear jeans, which in summer it's so uncomfortable, right? And so I didn't really want to, I hated summer and I didn't want to go to school.
So my name's Diane Kemp. I'm a professor of broadcast journalism at Birmingham City University. I think one of the first things that I suppose comes to my mind when I think about body issues is thinking about myself as a young teen, because there's no worse time in your entire life where you're feeling really anxious about who am I, what do I look like, what's the impression I make. And when I was a teen, which was in the 1970s, really long time ago, the image, of course, for girls and women was all about being very feminine, right? So being kind of short, a bit petite, a bit girly. These were the images you saw. It's what you were supposed to be. Very kind of little. I was never any of that. I mean, I was almost always the tallest girl in class. I was 5'8", I think, by then. And so I always looked like I'd been kept down a year, do you know? And and when you're a young teen, you feel those things really, really strongly. So yeah, that was the biggest thing for me, that sense of, hold on a second, the idea of what kind of girls look like was this kind of slightly, curly hair was in as well. Kind of lots of images of kind of blonde curly hair. Well, I was never blonde, never had curly hair, and I was very tall. So all of those sort of ideas of, well, that's what it is to be, a proper girly girl. I never conformed to that, and it's a very strange feeling. You don't recognise yourself.
Appearance-based bullying can be detrimental to young children's perception of body image and their mental health. An article published by Anti-Bullying Alliance claims that more than 55% of young people have been bullied, and 60% have admitted to changing the way they look after being bullied.
Like even when I first started losing weight and I was thin and I was like, oh okay, like I can wear nice clothes now and stuff, I'd be so paranoid. Anytime I'd eat a meal, I think I'd have to like weigh myself afterwards and then be like, oh my God, I'm putting on weight. Then I'd look in the mirror and I'd see myself as bigger as I actually am. And then when other people see me, they're like, you're so skinny, like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I'm baffled. It's just crazy how the mind works in that way. But I would say, in a sense, that it was some sort of body dysmorphia, because I know for a fact that nothing did change. It was just all in my head.
There's always that kind of self-conscious part of me, like, since I've started going to the gym, I thought it would better me, but now there's never a time where I can look at my body and be like, yeah, I like what I look like. And it's just something that always weighs on you. Like, you can be getting ready for the day, you'll look in the mirror and be like, oh, am I happy I look like this? Am I not?
Like, even up to now, I don't know what my body looks like. I can look in the mirror now, 5 minutes later, look in the mirror, and I see 2 completely different images. I genuinely have no idea of what my body looks like, what size I am.
So my parents noticed that I lost a lot of weight and that I was eating less and trying to be healthy. But I know that they were trying to help, but the comments they were making sometimes would trigger it even more, because they would say, like, my mom would say, oh, you have no ass now, or like something like that, which would be like, okay, like what I'm supposed to do with it. Like they would point out like, oh, you look unhealthy, you look too skinny, you look like you're struggling, you look anorexic, which is again about your appearance, so makes you even more insecure. But also I know that like some people, if they hear that they're like too skinny, it motivates them to keep going. And it's showing, but I couldn't see the changes on myself. Like I still saw myself the same way when I look at the mirror. I didn't see myself skinnier, even though I knew that like I lost 10 kilograms. So yeah.
In 2023, the ideal body is considered as the hourglass figure, also known in some cases as slim thick. This would be large breasts, small waist, a full and round bum, flat stomach, wide and curvaceous hips, full thighs, and a slim face.
With influencer culture, one kind of dominates at a certain point in time. But for someone who looks like me, it's a curvy model. It's having certain assets, having a bigger bum, having bigger breasts, clear skin, pretty face, like snatched body, proportions crazy. That's kind of what the mold is.
The way I see it, I mean, I watch a lot of the Kardashians and stuff. I mean, I love it because it's entertaining. But I always look at the way their body is, and it's like always like very thin at the top but curvy, like big boobs, big bum, like BBLs. Yeah, you know, like rap music videos where they're just talking about like your juicy like thighs and things like that. I feel like that's kind of this so-called stereotype that people kind of stick to in society. That's what I think of personally. It's what I see on social media, but I'm not too sure.
3 years ago, it was like this BBL body, as in like very skinny waist, big ass, big breasts. But now I noticed that there was this article which caused a lot of backlash because they were saying like this heroin chic is getting back in, as in like too skinny. And you know, people's bodies are not a trend. Everyone has a different body type and it shouldn't be treated as a trend. Like I know that like it changes, but it shouldn't.
Oh, it's like, I mean, it changes so frequently because even now I think we're in between like a period of like the ideal body is essentially changing. Like if like earlier last year, it was definitely like what you call the BBL body, like full, very full, like legs and thighs and bum, small waist, but like still big boobs, I think. But now it's becoming like a lot more subtle. It's still the subtle hourglass, but like a lot of people, celebrities, I don't know if you've seen it, are like basically like dissolving fillers, like getting a lot of fat removed. I feel like now like slimmer bodies are coming back in.
Big boobs, small waist, big bum, kind of like the, you know, the, what's it called? I think it's the hourglass kind of shape. Yeah, I think it's because of celebs, you know, like I'd say Kim Kardashian, she kind of like, that's what I think, she kind of started the whole movement, and then everyone's out here getting surgery to like have the boobs and the bum and like the tiny waist and stuff. Because that's what I see a lot on social media. So I think that's like the ideal body type in today's society, to be fair.
I think it's definitely quite a small build, maybe short, maybe tall, depends who you ask, but definitely like hourglass, big hips, big boobs, like defined, I don't know, it changes for everyone, but even like long blonde hair everyone wants, or long, healthy, curly brunette hair. It's so different, but it's so specific at the same time.
So far, the BBL has been mentioned several times when describing what the ideal body is in today's society. The BBL, also known as Brazilian butt lift, is a surgery procedure that removes excess fat from one part of the body and injects it into the bum. The fat is known to usually be removed from a problem area, which some would class as the hips, thighs, and lower abdomen. In 2022, the British Association of Aesthetic Plastic Surgeons released its annual audit and found that 2022 witnessed a noticeable surge in cosmetic surgery. According to their figures, procedures were up 102% in 2022. In order to get a better understanding about the cosmetic surgery industry and how procedures work for women who seek it, I sat down with Dr. Fasano, a surgeon and body sculpting expert.
I think that social media definitely plays an important part in influencing people, especially the younger generations. Kylie, when she came out on Instagram ages ago, probably 10 years from now, I think, 10 years ago, when she posted that picture of her with those big lips and she came out with stating that she has used fillers and so on, there was a massive surge in the need for, in the request for fillers. And that's something that has been studied in marketing and such. And it proves the point of how important social media is and how dangerous it is. It may be if not used carefully. Yes, I think it's a shared agreement at the end of the day. They have to be fully informed, but at the same time, it's a bit of a misconception that patients come and say what they want to have and they get it. They might have it, but the last word is of the surgeon. The surgeon is the one that decides if they feel comfortable doing. And I have rejected a few patients in the past where I said, in all honesty, I think I can't provide the result that you want to achieve because of this or that reason. Perhaps they didn't have a good skin quality. It's important to get it with a thorough consultation before the surgery. It's important to put a few things in place so that we decrease those chances. So for instance, I don't treat patients for 14 days after the first consultation so that I allow them to absorb all the information, think about what I said and what they discussed with me, and then confirm by proceeding with the surgery. The patients are also provided with a consultation summary of everything that has been discussed. I also make my patients go through a mental health screening that allows me to have a quick understanding if the reasons why they're coming are not because of a genuine dislike of a particular part of their body, or if we're talking about body dysmorphia. If I have a chance of, if I feel that there is a case of body dysmorphia because of the in-depth conversation that I had with them at the time of the consultation, plus the mental health screening that they have filled out for me, then I refer them to a psychiatrist for a review. And the psychiatrist will then assess if the patient is suitable for treatment. And I was a little bit too cautious, or they're not suitable. And again, it's better to be more cautious than not being cautious enough. And that's why one thing that I usually say to my patients is that I before making patients happy, my first job is to sleep comfortably at night.
As part of my research, I posted a poll on TikTok asking women whether they have or do suffer with body image issues. Out of almost 200 women, 90% said that they do.
I did have the eating disorder because of this. So I started to work out, and I was reading on the internet like lots of like celebrity diets to follow, and everyone was saying like, oh, the last meal you should have is at 3 p.m. So that would be what I was doing. So then I would go out at 10, I would go to sleep at 10 p.m. because I was too hungry, and I just wanted to wake up early in the morning so I could have like breakfast, which would be just fruit. So yeah, it did have effect on my physical health as well.
My research topic has been in eating behaviours, and so my focus for this question would probably be on the eating behaviours, the manifestation of the pressure and how it can mean, I suppose they call it yo-yo dieting, but from my research perspective, that yo-yo dieting is actually far more complex than just kind of wanting to lose weight. It's actually a process you go through over time where you almost train your brain in certain ways to restrict, and then because you're restricting, you are really controlling what you're eating for a certain amount of time, but then it's not maintainable. So what happens is someone may eat a forbidden food such as a piece of chocolate, and then that sends off a whole catalyst of effects where they might then that day, right, I've messed up my diet, I'm going to eat everything today. So there you have almost like a binge quality to that. It's called sort of the what the hell effect. So I think that can happen to a lot of people, and especially young women. The research shows that you're at a higher risk of developing this restraint and then unrestrained eating pattern.
I'd been bullied like throughout primary school, so I never really had like good self-esteem anyway. I think it was like, I thought about it, but I just thought like it's just another thing that's bad about me, until I read, I think it's Girls Losing Weight or something like that by Jacqueline Wilson. That book was the beginning of my demise, truly, because the main character, Ellie, she was overweight and she became bulimic, and that's when I first realised actually I can make myself sick, and at 10 is when I started making myself sick to try and lose weight. Sometimes I feel like I'm not positive enough, or I've not made enough progress, especially like when I'm still struggling with my weight. Like with an ED, like it's a mental illness and people don't realise that, so like there's a chance it will always come back. And when I find myself on a diet and I'm counting the calories again and I'm like, wait, I can't do this. Sometimes you feel so weak. The type of school I went to an all-girl grammar school, and at the time I was going, there was no black people. Like out of 120 students, there were 3 black people in my year, and 2 of them didn't want to know me. And like, the way my body grows as a black woman is very different to those of my peers. So at the time I was comparing myself to like the Kendall Jenner type babes, and that was never me. Like I was very much giving Queen Latifah, which is again like not bad. Like Queen Latifah is that girl, but for me it was like actually like what the heck, like my body is wrong. And that took a really big toll on me, especially like in secondary school. You're at the age where like everyone's talking to boys and stuff, and like in my mind it's like I'm not good enough for the boys. And like, as I said, I feel like, does your ethnicity affect your body image? Because sometimes I feel like maybe, like at the time I was like, maybe if I was lighter, like my body wouldn't matter so much, but being like darker and like the weight that I was, it was like, okay, this is terrible. I need to do something about it.
I know that some of my friends, when they were pregnant, kind of talked a lot about the kind of liberation of that when you're pregnant, you're somehow seen as outside of the kind of wolf whistly, you know, all the nonsense that happens when you're younger. And, you know, I mean, I lived in the 70s and 80s, which, as we know, is thankfully now another world. And the stuff we put up with then, you just would die if it was going on. I think other things go on now, but the kind of really out and out sexism and misogyny that there was then, that you expected just to put up with. I remember at work somebody saying to me about a story in a newsroom and saying, you don't need to worry your head about this, which sounds like something from the sort of, you know, medieval times, doesn't it? No, it was from the 80s. So that kind of way in which women were treated, it's all tied up with that, you know, the imagery. Something about when you become pregnant, you are allowed, or you certainly felt like at the time, were allowed to come outside of being seen as a sexual object or a kind of, you know, had to be defined in particular ways. You could be, you know, heavily pregnant with all the things that entails. And I can't remember feeling it entirely. It was great, and I did love being pregnant, but I was also lucky with my pregnancies. Not every woman has a happy, healthy pregnancy. You're not in charge of that necessarily, you know. But yeah, no, I kind of enjoyed it. And it does give you time out from some of the ways in which you're viewed. So that's quite interesting, I think, yeah.
When I was younger, yeah, it definitely took a toll on my mental health, especially when I used to go like out with my friends and stuff. I would always, like I was very insecure of myself and of my body type. Like you would never see me without like a jacket or a sweater on top or like a jumper or something, because I just wanted to cover my thighs or cover my bum, or like, because I thought it was just bigger, I'd wear like oversized tops and stuff like that. So I think how it affected my mental health is that wherever I went, I would always feel like, oh, I have to wear something to cover my stomach, or I have to wear something baggy to cover my thighs, or oh, I can't wear this because it wouldn't look good on me because I'm bigger, or I can't wear that color as well. Color was a big thing. Like white, you would never see me in white. Like you would never see me in white, because I was like, if you see me in white, that'll make me look bigger. So.
Getting in the gym, not really knowing what to do in the gym properly, not knowing how important it is to actually do your research, know about nutrition, know what you're doing. It's deeper than just go and lift some weights and boom, you got some muscle. Starving my body of what my body actually needs, not knowing that I'm harming myself rather than actually helping myself. Trying to get that bum in the gym, but actually stripping my body of muscle, and then literally starting off worse than when I actually began the journey. So yeah, just trying to fit the mold of the desired body type. Yeah. How I speak to myself, or the voice inside my head, or how I would talk would be very negative. Like, and then that would bring me down and bring me into a state of like, I don't feel good, I feel bad about myself. It made me very like reserved with other people, especially when it comes to relationships as well. Just made me very self-conscious and just very on edge type of thing. Like I can't be free and confident, very reserved. Yeah.
It is still a bit of both sides. I feel like I'll always carry on in my head that I'm just always paranoid and having to, what if I put on weight, or what if I'm too less, or what do I, how careful should I be when I'm eating, you know, just things like that really. I think it's just the overthinking kind of aspect, or kind of just isolating myself from people, because you just feel that extra bit different and you're not the same as all the other girls in your school or your year, and you know people are thinking something, because it's a judgmental society we be living in at this point. Even back then, it's just the toxic energy. And then at some point I'd think maybe I shouldn't eat, or it would kind of be like binge eating. It would be such different episodes that I'd go through. And even when I'm now like this way, I'm like, oh, you know, I'll survive, I won't eat just in case, like, again, pile up those pounds. I think both stages of my life, I've been through different episodes. And then in between, when I was going through the health battle, I think that was just a realization point for me that I just have to be careful really, or just not, I shouldn't care so much. Now I'm just perfectly happy regardless, but maybe in terms of clothing wise, just to like get in with the latest trends and stuff, I'd kind of conform. Or anytime you'd see an influencer promote something, like, oh, wear this, like, look, it looks good, I've seen this new outfit, and there's discount, I'd be like, oh, I'll get that, like, I'll actually look good in something for once. But now I just do my own shopping. I don't even bother looking at influencers anymore unless I'm bored.
The pressures seem to me to be getting worse, and I think I fear for my granddaughter, because I see young women of your age, for example, the kind of pressures growing up with much more of the stuff that happens on here. So that all of the kind of imagery that I was growing up with was on telly. Well, you know, once you turn the telly off, that's pretty much it. There wasn't an awful lot else. You know, where else were you coming up against those images? But we're carrying them around all the time. I don't know what that must be like, but pretty oppressive, I would have thought. You know, hard to escape that sense of, well, who am I, when there's images on there which are saying you should be like this or that or whatever. So my daughter, I think, had a bit of that, but my granddaughter, you know, who's a year and a half, you know, what will it be like for her? And I hate the idea that from an early age she will be getting images kind of very, you know, very quickly portrayed to her about this is what girls are like, this is how they behave, this is what they should look like. I absolutely hate that notion. It's kind of death to independence, isn't it? And a sense of self, sense of confidence, yeah.
The average British woman spends half her life believing that her body is inadequate. Research conducted by the gut health brand Simprov found that only 6% of women describes themselves as very confident.
I think even by me going to the gym, which was something I wanted to do to get healthier, I find myself doing more weight training so I can get like more bigger hips or a bigger bum. And obviously there's some things I can't be in control of, but even like dyeing my hair lighter because that's what everyone wants someone to look like, and I just want to fit in.
I just genuinely don't think my body is capable of it. So I've had to kind of set my own standards, like realizing I will never be that shape, I will never be that size. Of course, like there's times when I like wish I wanted to, but I'm pretty realistic in the sense that I knew it was never going to be me, so.
Later on, then I started like working out. I wanted to get rid of the cellulite, but I didn't realize that it's mostly genetics, and because my mom has it, obviously I can work on it, but I would not be able to get rid of it completely. Now I don't care because I see that like everyone has it to some extent, so I'm okay with that now. But you know, when you're younger, it's hard.
No, because like I said, I never because I guess now the standard body is the curvy one. Which I think it's nice. I don't think it's a bad body type, but I've never I don't know, I've never worked to kind of have that ideal body type. I always believe it's me against me, so I'll try to be happy with myself kind of stuff. And if I want to lose something, then I'd work on myself to have the body type that I want, not the one that society says is good for you to want or for you to have or something.
I've tried every single diet that you could probably think of, and when I think about it now, it's kind of sad because I was so young when I was doing those kinds of diets. Like I was like 16, 15, 17. I've done water diets. I've done diets where I literally just have not eaten, and I would spend my days watching mukbangs to get me through. Like so serious, I'd spend my day watching mukbangs to get me through because I was starving myself. And I laugh because it is funny, but when you really think about it, it's a little bit like this little girl who's like 16 years old who should not be caring about those things just is. And then yeah, I've done like the crazy kind of going to the gym and just hitting it out and just kind of depriving your body of all the things that it actually needs. But I literally did not care. I just wanted that certain body and to look a certain way, and if it means that I'm not as healthy inside and I look good outside, no one could tell me anything different. I'm gonna get that body. Dealing and overcoming body image issues can be a difficult thing to do, especially with the constant reminders from society, social media, and how we speak to ourselves, but it is not impossible.
One thing I actually do, and this is a piece of advice my mum gave me, especially when it comes through looking through pictures. So say I look through a picture with my mum or with my friends and I don't like the way I look at it. My mum always said, it doesn't matter what you look like, it matters what you felt like in that moment of time. So I think as difficult as it is, if you can put what you feel about your body to the side and think about how you're feeling, like when you're happy, excited, even when you're nervous, but like appreciating those feelings, it kind of pushes everything out the window.
I would say love yourself, which is like the most important thing. There's always going to be like bad days. There's always going to be someone who's going to say something, and then it can like trigger something that you went past like before, or it can trigger something that you've heard about yourself that you don't like. But it's love yourself and be okay with who you are. Obviously, if there's like an area in your life that you don't like and you can change it, fine, do change it, but like be patient with yourself as well. Accept who you are. Don't try to fit in a trend in social media, because social media changes up and down. Today it's okay, tomorrow it might be something else. Like you can't keep up with what people's perceptions of body should be. I would just say like love yourself, be happy with yourself, and yeah.
When I saw the support of my family members and friends, then you realise that you are so loved and people do care about you, and you don't have to be like everyone else. Plus, I don't want to be like everyone else. I want to be myself. I want to be unique, all of that stuff. So I think it was just took all the love and stuff and just thought, you know what, I'm gonna slay it all day, every day, whatever I look like. Just not risk my health to look like everyone else type thing.
I think therapy. Of course I would be biased towards therapy, but I think therapy really supports an individual's journey with getting out of some of those ways of thinking, those ways of feeling, old deep-rooted patterns, all the things that potentially haven't been challenged in any way in earlier experiences. If someone wasn't to have therapy, then it would be trying to practice things that bring some gratitude towards themselves, potentially minimizing the amount that they look at certain posts, what they follow, being more mindful of actually there should maybe be like a warning, you know, on some pages in social media that this is a very aesthetic focused page and we don't promote this if you are someone who has an eating disorder or is currently going through a mental health issue. Maybe something to signpost a bit more that actually I'm going to put myself at potentially risk of feeling bad about myself if I followed this page.
Honestly, like, I've gotten out of the mindset that like my body has to look a certain way. As long as it does what I need it to do, I'm happy. Like, at the end of the day, your body, the flesh, the fat you have is to protect your organs, is to keep you alive. So as long as you can do what you need to do, that's a perfect body for me. Truly, what helped me was just accepting the help. Like, at that period of time when my parents were trying to help me, when my school was trying to help me, my friends, I thought everyone hated me, but I was just doing it for the fact that I loved them and they wanted me to do it. And through doing that, I actually looked back and I realized, like, if I had had pride, I probably wouldn't be here, you know? So I'd say, yeah, just accepting the help and also like taking the time to appreciate what your body does for you. Like, mindfulness is key. Sitting there and just taking deep breaths and feeling like the air go into your lungs and realizing like what your body is doing for you. Mindfulness, yeah.
The outcome is there is no ideal female body. Beauty truly is in the eye of the beholder. My discussions with all the women I spoke to were different in every way. Yes, some parts and aspects of what they said were similar, but that is mainly down to society and culture. The true consensus is that women in today's society deal with body image issues, and it is continuing to grow at a fast rate due to society, culture, but mainly social media. We need to have more discussions within our society and communities to tackle the growing issue. There is no ideal body, better body, or perfect body.